Great. Thank you everyone for joining in. Today, I think it's 5:02, so in cognizance of time, we will start. Today, we are planning to cover Ixigo as a part of our webinar series. Uh, Ixigo, as most of you will know, basically runs a OTA service. OTA is an online travel agent service, which allows you to book flights, trains, buses, and other hospitality related avenues through its mobile app and its website. So Ixigo is a very interesting company. I think travel has been one of the areas where there has been a lot of disruption. There has been a massive change in the way people used to book their hospitality and travel requirements, and the way they are doing it now. If you see, maybe 10 years back, most of the people used to rely on travel agents and offline booking centers, and that has shifted very very rapidly with the advent of all of the OTA agents. I think the early start was done here by Mr. Deep Kalra's startup called Make My Trip, and eventually companies like Yatra, Ease My Trip, Musafir, Ixigo, um, all of these have done a fabulous job allowing you to book all of your travel related requirements right from the comfort of your homes just by clicking a couple of buttons on their web and app system. So without further ado, let's start on Ixigo. We'll be covering a great deal of data today, comparing the entire industry, the financials, the hits and misses for Ixigo, and then we'll obviously, as always, dive deeper into the valuation and try to understand how the company has been doing and whether it makes sense to add Ixigo to a part of your pre-IPO portfolio. Right? So let's get started. So starting with the overview of the travel industry, like we have always done, the Indian travel market is roughly a 3 lakh crore market, and these are a year old data, so this would have gone up by 15-20% now. And in the Indian travel market, there are majorly four sections, which are the majorly four headers which contribute to the overall travel market. The largest in this is obviously air ticketing, which comprises of more than 50% of the overall Indian travel market. So if this is a 2,60,000 figure, this accounts for 1,30,000 crores of the overall travel industry in India. The next largest component is hotel booking, which accounts for almost 80,000 crores, accounting for almost 30% of the overall travel market. And rail comes in next with a overall booking of 50,000 crores plus, and next comes bus ticketing, which is 5,000 crores. Obviously, there are segments which are smaller and still fall under the Indian travel market, but we have chosen to stick to these four segments because this is the segment in which the company in question, Ixigo, operates. It does not really operate in the hotel segment, but it's majorly focused on air ticketing, rail ticketing, and bus ticketing. Now, just to understand how the online space compares with the overall air ticketing space. So out of the 1,29,000 crores of revenues or generated by the air ticketing industry, the OTA ticketing industry is close to 70,000 crores, right? So this is roughly 78-80% of the overall market, which is phenomenal. So you have to just understand the magnitude of what has been achieved by the OTA platforms here. Something which was completely done offline is now for 75-80% of the cases executed online. So it has completely wiped off the entire way that the bookings for air ticketing was done by capturing the majority share of bookings. Hotel bookings is a lot less, sort of 74,000 crores. Only 15,000 crores is currently done of online or through an OTA agent, which roughly will translate to a 20% kind of a market share of the overall hotel booking space. So as we see that there is a lot of room for the hotel booking industry to actually digitize or go online, or the bookings to increase through the OTA space. Rail ticketing is another industry wherein, although the online component is very large, the component booked through OTAs is fairly small. So out of the 49,000 crores, only 800 crores worth of ticketing, or less than 2% of the overall ticketing, is actually done online. Bus ticketing again has shown a massive increase as far as online ticketing goes. So out of an overall amount spent on bus ticketing of close to 5,000 crores, 2,000 crores is what is booked through OTA channels. So again, this is a massive number, almost 50% of the all bus tickets sold in India being booked through an online travel agent. So if we can summarize this slide, air ticketing and bus ticketing are two domains in the overall travel market which have seen immense online penetration within the last 2 to 3 years. Air ticketing seeing as high as a 70-80% kind of a figure while it comes to bookings through an OTA, and bus ticketing looking at a figure of close to a 55-60% kind of a figure. Now let's dig deeper into the online travel market and see how it is supposed to grow and how the total travel market is supposed to grow in comparison to the online travel market. So the overall India travel market for FY20 was close to a $46 billion figure, and this is expected by FY25 this will grow to a $66 billion figure. The online travel market is currently at a 16 billion market cap to the 46 billion overall market size, which is close to I don't know what, a 40% market size for this, and this is supposed to go from a 40% contribution kind of a scenario to a more than 50% contribution kind of a scenario later on. Now most of this has already been covered in the previous slide, so we'll focus here the expected growth rates for all of these individual streams of travel and how they are supposed to grow and how the online counterpart for them is supposed to grow. So while flights are expected to grow by 11% in the next 3 to 4 years, the online ticketing spends are supposed to grow by a 16% year-on-year CAGR. While hotels are supposed to grow in total at 9%, the online hotel industry or the online OTA booking space is supposed to grow at a 20% CAGR. While buses are expected to grow at a measly 4%, the online bus ticketing spends are expected to grow at a whooping 15%. This is almost more than 4x of the overall growth in bus ticketing. Trains again are expected to grow at a 3% rate, while the online ticketing is supposed to grow at a 6% rate. If we see the overall travel industry as a whole, the industry is supposed to grow at a 8% CAGR in the next couple of years. However, in comparison to this, the online space is expected to grow at almost a double rate of 14% per annum for the next couple of years. What this slide basically tells us is that irrespective of the overall growth, the online space or the OTA space is supposed to grow at a much faster clip than the overall travel market. So as we can see, the overall travel market is expected to grow between 8 to 10%, but the online travel market will be growing at a much faster clip of between 16 to 20% for the next couple of years, right? So moving on. Now this is a very interesting slide, right? And this will give us an idea of how the overall travel space works out. So let's focus on the middle part here, or the unreserved rail section here. So the unreserved rail section basically means the general bogie wherein there is no reservation done by a majority of the people, and they simply go and they acquire a ticket right from the station and they partake and they travel. Now what basically we are trying to bring home the point is, for a travel space, the unreserved rail forms a baseline from where people either migrate upwards to reserved rail, then to domestic air traffic, and then to international air traffic, or they migrate towards buses. Now why does this happen basically is, so I mean it will be clear that why people are moving from unreserved to reserved and to air traffic, but why does it move from unreserved rail to the intercity and the intracity bus mediums is because rail generally runs at a very high occupancy rate, as compared to which buses operate at a 50 to 60% occupancy rate, and the quality of service which buses will provide will go up as the road conditions improve and as more and more private players step in. So therefore, as India progresses, the overall industry is expected to move away from unreserved rail, which is the major mode of transportation for the majority of Bharat of India, to both upwards and downwards. When we say upwards, we mean that the migration will happen from an unreserved rail to a reserved rail, then to domestic air traffic, and then to international air traffic. And on the other side, as people and as the infrastructure for the road traffics improve and the overall availability of buses improve and the quality of the buses improve, people will again try and shift from the unreserved rail category to intercity and intracity buses. What this therefore implies is that the coming couple of years or the coming decade is expected to show a much higher clip of growth for air traffic and for bus traffic as compared to rail traffic. Great. Now that we have a lay of the land or how the entire industry plays out or how the entire travel market plays out, let's understand our company of the day, which is Ixigo. So Ixigo got incorporated as Lay Travel Avenues Private Limited. Uh, However, it did not launch as an OTA. So OTA is basically an online travel agent which allows you to come on its platform and to be able to book flights, trains, buses so that you can use those tickets to actually mobilize yourself. But Ixigo launched itself as a meta search tool, right? So it used to get information from multiple streams and display it to a user. And this is what they did from the year 2007 or 2008 to 2018. And only in 2017 is when they actually pivoted their business, and from a pure play data aggregator they moved to a OTA service provider. Uh, what is also very interesting about Ixigo is that while most of the players in this space stick to a one app regime, that they have one single app for train, buses, hotels, everything combined, Ixigo operates on a multi app strategy, right? So for Ixigo flights there is a separate app, for Ixigo trains there is a separate app, and the demographics for this is fairly different for Ixigo, and they have designed a beautiful strategy which they are trying to capitalize on how to address every segment of their populace and give them a unique use case. Third very interesting thing what Ixigo has done is it has not gone after tier 1 and only airline space, right? So it has prioritized railways as a mechanism to get more and more people to download its app, right? And it has come up with a bunch of interesting features, wherein you can track the real-time movement of your trains, you can get the expected delays of your train, you can use it for all sorts of value-added services, and that is how it is getting people to download its app and start using its app in the first place, instead of spending a lot of money into ad budget and into marketing spends. So it has done a very phenomenal job in prioritizing railways, in the sense that they have created tools which allow people to download the app, and then the idea which Ixigo is playing out is they would find a way to convert these players or these users into paying customers by either getting them to book bus tickets, or either getting them to book train tickets, or getting them to book flight tickets as the propensity to pay increases. One of the very interesting aspects we noted during Ixigo's our research on Ixigo was it grew even during the pandemic. So Ixigo actually did not have a bad year, and they are very confident in their annual report, saying that we did not let even one person go during the pandemic because of COVID. We did take some salary cuts, but there was no reduction in team size, which is a phenomenal achievement for any company. And I saved the best for the last, in the sense that Ixigo literally has the most app downloads of any OTA. In fact, it is so high that it has more app downloads than all of the other OTA players combined. And why it has been able to do it in this manner is because of the reasons which we spoke earlier, which is basically that it began as a tool which allowed people to prioritize on railway based information and on meta search, and therefore their core is content. So they are trying to get more and more people lured in to their downloading their app with the useful tools which they have put on their app, and then try and convert these people into customers along the line. Now let's see how this journey for Ixigo has been over the last 15 years. So like I said, in 2007 Ixigo had launched its first website for meta search, which simply allowed people to understand what were the flights available between destinations, what were the rates, and this was simply a data-based website. In closer to 2014, Ixigo flight and train apps were launched, and the idea was to give them as comprehensive tools as possible for people to understand their train journey and get information on their journeys. Now this is the very interesting part. The 2015 to 19 is the really interesting era for Ixigo, when it completely pivoted from a meta search website to a full-fledged OTA. So So it added train utility and crowdsourcing features. So it allowed people to track where their trains are so that they can reach the railway stations on time. They allowed people to track the location of train by using the GPS and cellular tower features of the people who are already on board on the train. Then they got IRCTC partnerships and bus booking launched. They created a marketplace model with assisted booking functionality, and they developed their in-house AI travel assistant, which they have named Tara. What is interesting about Tara is that 86% of all queries which are raised on Ixigo's platform are completely handled by its AI assistant, reducing the need for Ixigo to employ a lot of people in their customer support divisions. And this will help them because specifically their idea is to go with by volume and not by value. So the attempt which the company is playing out is that it wants more and more people to download its app and then to try and convert them into paying customers. And therefore this will be a very critical part or a critical piece in Ixigo's strategy going forward. In 2021, it has implemented a full stack customer experience on flights, trains and buses. It turned profitable. So 2021 they posted a profit figure. 2021 they again posted a negative bottom line. But again from 2022-23 figures are again looking to turn positive. What was interesting about this area was they also acquired two different platforms. So they acquired Abhibus, which was a bus ticketing agency, and Confirm Ticket, which was basically into rail ticketing. Along with this, they also started a new product called Ixigo Assured, which essentially provides a free cancellation product. So it is like MMT Black, wherein you pay a certain amount of money, and in case you want to cancel your flights at the end, at the last moment, or cancel your travel plans at the last moment, you will be saved from all of the cancellation charges which you would in other cases incur. So this essentially gives you an entire bird's eye view of how Ixigo has moved from a meta search to OTA, and then from an OTA to transitioning into a full stack experience for flights, trains and buses by acquiring Confirm Ticket, Abhibus, and launching a new service called Ixigo Assured. Moving to the next slide, and I'm trying to understand, after all of this effort, where does Ixigo finally stand, right? So in terms of the overall market share, Ixigo holds a 8% market share in flight bookings, which is fairly low. So the leadership space is held by Make My Trip, and then there is Yatra, Ease My Trip, Musafir.com. All of these people also pan out, and Ixigo holds a reasonably good share of 8% in this space. What is very interesting is, in the train segment, it has a 45% market share, which is phenomenally high. And this is majorly with its acquisition of Confirm Ticket, which it had acquired in 2021-2022. Along with this, in the buses, in the overall bus segment, bus ticketing segment, it had acquired Abhibus, like we discussed, which gave it a instantaneous 10% market share in the bus ticketing segment. So overall, if we try and understand how the market share for Ixigo plays out, it is at a 8% for flights, it is at a 45% for trains, and it is at a 10% for bus ticketing. Now that we've covered how Ixigo got started, how has been the market share, let's get down to some more specific numbers. And while these numbers are there on the screen, you can go through them in their own time as well. But just to give you some broad headline numbers, the GTV, or the gross transaction value for Ixigo has been close to 5,600 crores for FY22. It has close to 4 crore active users. It has close to 0.91 crore monthly transacting users. The monthly active users or percentage of people actually transacting is close to 4.32, which is basically your transacting users by active users. Now this forms a very critical part when we are evaluating OTA, specifically the likes of Ixigo, where they have a huge base of people who want to simply come to their app to understand or get some information. If they are able to convert even a small portion of this 4.42 crores into transacting users, they will be able to massively impact their top line. And which is why even if from 4.3 it is able to increase this figure to say a 5 or a 5.5, Ixigo's overall balance sheet will see a huge jump both in terms of bottom and top line. Now there are some figures on monthly screens, downloads, and number of transactions, but essentially the point we would want to drive home with this data pointers is that Ixigo has a huge connect with users because of their tools which it has given them free of cost to use. And this has gotten a lot of people to download their app. It is more than all of the other OTA apps combined, and the strategy which the company is employing is trying to convert these users which it has acquired with all of these tools without having to spend on advertisement and marketing into paying users as and when they sort of migrate from trains to buses and buses to flights. Cool. Now that we have covered majority of the items on the operational front, let's come down to hard numbers and let's see how financially how has Ixigo performed. So if you see Ixigo's revenue figures, FY20 revenues for Ixigo was at 111 crores, FY21 was at 135 crores. Now these were obviously COVID times which impacted the overall hospitality and the travel space very, very deeply. FY22 shows a steep jump from 135 crores to almost 380 crores. But what has to be kept in mind here is that this also includes acquisitions by Abhibus and Confirm Ticket. So both of those numbers would have gotten added here. If we look at the PAT for these figures, in FY21 they delivered a phenomenal positive PAT of almost 7 crores on a top line of 135 crores. But FY22 again, because of the acquisitions of Abhibus and Confirm Ticket and the overall integrations which they have done within their apps, they had to spend a lot on multiple avenues and on integrations and on engineering teams, which has overall bloated their expense line items, and they ended up with a negative 21 crores. But the June figures for Ixigo have again shown a lot of hope. So for June quarter, the net revenue is almost 118 crores. So if we extrapolate this to say a annualized kind of a figure, if they are able to maintain this same pace of growth, they will possibly end this figure at a top line of almost 500 crores. Their total operating cost for this period was 116 crores, and after accounting for other income, they are giving you a bottom line of 9 crores just for this quarter, which is again very, very interesting considering that last year they had lost 21 crores. And in FY21 they had posted a net bottom line of 7 crores. So June quarter is, in my opinion, a phenomenally good result for Ixigo, where they have been able to grow their top line as well as retaining a very healthy bottom line as well, right? And the expectation is that they are able to keep this up and they are able to keep growing their top line while they are preserving their bottom line. Companies like that are worth their weight in gold. Now that we have an understanding of the overall travel market space, we have an overall understanding of what Ixigo does, how the start has been, how the financials look. Let us also now step into a comparative mode and let's understand what kind of values does Ixigo hold while it is stacked up against MMT, Yatra and EaseMyTrip. So all of these figures are on the screen in front of you. However, what I have to give as a disclaimer is that these figures are for FY21. These are not the latest figures, since then the numbers have shifted wildly. But roughly this is what it is. In terms of transaction value, if you see MMT is the leader, Ixigo would rank between the second and the third place. Revenue wise, again MMT is way ahead of its competition. Ixigo, Yatra, EaseMyTrip were in a similar zone. Employee strength wise, this looks to be very, very on a safe footing with only a 200 employee strength, but this is FY21. This might have changed by a significant margin in the last 2 years. What is interesting is this two figures, right? The monthly downloads and the monthly active users. If you see, monthly downloads for MMT is only 8 lakhs, while for Ixigo it is as high as 35 lakhs. and monthly active users for Ixigo for MMT, while it is in the range of 2.5 crores, for Ixigo it was almost 3.10 crores. And like I have repeated multiple times earlier, Ixigo strategy is to grow very wide in terms of people downloading their app and then to try and convert them into paying customers. Great. Now that we have covered everything that there was for Ixigo, let's understand, what has the company done right and where are the challenges which we feel that might, crop up in the company's future. So in terms of pros, the company's has created a very unique strategy where it is focusing on tier 2 and tier 3, while most of the other OTAs are focused on tier 1 growth. The second interesting point for Ixigo, or point in its favor, is that it looks like it is fairly close to profitability. So while FY21 was profitable, FY22 was again in negative, but June 22 figures are again positive. The next point in favor of Ixigo is that it has created a diversified revenue base. So it is not focused only on flights. It has split its overall revenue between flights, ticketing for buses, and ticketing for rail. And the last and the most interesting point which it has created is it has created a unique mechanism wherein it has created a very large funnel for people downloading its app, which is lowering its CAC. So CAC basically stands for customer acquisition cost. So it does not have to spend as high as others would in terms of acquiring customers. So they can simply keep on, using these people who are already signing up on their platform and just try and convert them into paying users. Now, some of these pros are also some concern areas. While it is good to have a lot of people who have downloaded your app, we have seen in the past that a lot of people are not able to convert this organic traffic into paying customers. So that might be a difficult experience for Ixigo. And the success of Ixigo in the long term will depend upon them profitably delivering on converting this particular traffic. And I think the second aspect is, while the revenue has grown, we've seen that the costs have grown along with the revenue, and therefore it remains to be seen whether going forward Ixigo will be in a position wherein it can normalizes its margins and actually generate a top line which parallel to the top line will also yield a healthy bottom line. Coming to the next slide and understanding who owns Ixigo. So Ixigo has raised close to $76 million from some of the top venture capital firms. So they have GIC from Singapore, the Singapore Investing Authority, Sequoia, Micromax, Make My Trip, Safe Partners, BAF, Spectrum as their investors. If we see the holdings as of now, SAF Partners and Sequoia hold a major stake in Ixigo at 24% and 16%. Alok Bajpai, who is the founder of Ixigo, holds a 8.27%. Rajneesh Kumar, again a founder of Ixigo, holds a 8.73%. And Micromax has a 5.94% holding. So while private equity and VC firms have the majority stake, close to a 45-50% stake, the rest is held by the independent employees, ESOP holders, the founders, and the acquisitions. Now let's come to the most interesting slide, the slide which most of our users or most of our user base is interested into. What do we do with Ixigo? Should we invest into it? Does the valuation look logical? Will we be able to grow our money by investing into it? So let's dig a little deeper into how Ixigo's valuation has played out. So if we get to the most recent valuation for Ixigo in July 2021, which was at 3,200 crores, this was a $53 million fundraise which had been done by Ixigo's lead investors. This was executed at a market cap close to a $400 million market cap, which would convert to a rough figure of 3,200 crore in terms of market cap. This was pre-money, right? In August 21, one of its existing investors, Make My Trip, which had a significant stake in Ixigo, actually sold its entire stake to its other existing investors, and this was at a post money of 3,500 crores, right? So these two figures give us a good bottom line or a good baseline to compare the current valuation for Ixigo. According to the current pricing of Ixigo between 90 to 95 rupees per share, Ixigo's market cap would stand at a 3300 crore rupee level, right? And this will give you a revenue multiple of close to 9x. So if you compare in absolute for Ixigo between the valuation which it had raised private rounds at, which is between 3200 and 3500 crores, and the current market cap which stands at 3300 crores. So again, it is not very expensive in its current scenario. So it has not, increased in value at all from its previous fundraise of August 21. So 1.5 years down the line, the investors who are getting in right now are still able to acquire shares of Ixigo at the exact same rate at which they had done a very large private fundraise. So this is what basically the independent valuation for Ixigo implies. Now let us understand after this empirical data, how does it compare to its competitions. So we have added data for IRCTC, Make My Trip, Ease My Trip and Ixigo. So Ease My Trip had launched its IPO a couple of years back and they have done very well on the bourses. Make My Trip had launched its IPO in Nasdaq, so it's a Nasdaq listed company. IRCTC, why we have added here is, although it's very different in terms of its overall business, but why it makes sense to add IRCTC is because it has a lot of revenue contributions from rail, which also happens to be the case for Ixigo. So if we compare Ixigo to EMT currently has a market cap of 8,700 crores, a revenue of 235 crores and a price and a profit before tax of 105 crores. So if you compare Ixigo to EMT, which is its closest competitor in my opinion, Ixigo is at a market cap of 3,300 crores. It has a revenue of 380 crores, whereas it has a bottom line of negative 21 crores. So Ease My Trip has done a phenomenal job in terms of creating a bottom line along with a top line, and which is why the market has given it as a whooping 37x valuation on its revenue figure. So with just a 235 crore revenue for the last year, it is commanding a market cap of almost 8,700 crores, which is almost 35 to 37 times. Ixigo, on the other hand, because it has not been profitable, or it has not displayed its a substantial period of being profitable, it has been given a current multiple on its revenue of 8.7x. Looking at MMT is at a rough market cap of 26,000 crores with a revenue of almost 22,400 crores for FY22. PBT on this 2,500 crore revenue stands at a negative of 360 crores, and a rough market cap to revenue will come to 11x for MMT. IRCTC is at a whooping market cap of 58,000 crores with a revenue of 1,800 crores and an amazingly high PAT of 663 crores, and the market has given IRCTC a multiple of 28x on its revenue. So now what we can basically derive from understanding both the absolute valuation for Ixigo and a comparative valuation for Ixigo is that in terms of its empirical valuation, it is at a valuation very similar to what majority of the private equity and venture capital groups have gotten, and therefore there is not a risk to the investor of getting in at a valuation which is ridiculously high. And you know what generally happens with startup unicorns is that people enter at valuations which is very high to their previous fundraisers, right? So this does not seem to be the case with Ixigo. Ixigo had very recently in July 21 raised a round at a very similar valuation to which it is available right now, and even if you compare it to its peers, while it is not as profitable as Ease My Trip, which is why it is not getting a similar multiple as Ease My Trip, but we still expect Ixigo to do well, considering that the June 22 figures are much better than its FY22 figures. Now let's understand where Ixigo is in terms of its IPO. So Ixigo had filed its DRHP back in August 21 and they had received their approval on their DRHP in December 21. What this basically means is that Ixigo has another quarter or so to launch their IPO. So any approval by SEBI is valid for a period of 1 year. So because they received the approval in December 21, they can, without refiling their DRHP, bring out their IPO by December 22. So in case the markets are good, in case they are able to get investor interest, I expect them to either come out with their IPO very shortly. But if the market conditions are not conducive, if they are not able to garner the relevant interest, maybe they will have to postpone their IPO. In terms of IPO, they were looking at a 1600 crore fundraise, out of which 750 crores is for primary round, which will basically be infused into the company, and 850 crores is what is offer for sale, which is the existing investor who would have invested in the earlier rounds and the founders taking a partial exit or a full exit from the company. So this is what our coverage on Ixigo was. We will hold the call for a couple of minutes to get any questions in, and let's get to it. Got it. I don't think I am seeing any questions. So I'll just check. Okay, I think we have a couple of questions. I think the first question is, they had made a rights issue at 199 per share. So what about their IPO valuation price? Akshat, I think the rights issue had happened before they had also announced their bonus. So 199 was their pre-bonus pricing. So I'm not sure if you have seen the rights issue at the right capital base. So right now the capital base has actually grown and they have converted all of their dilutable instruments. So the current pricing is at 99 is close to a 1995 rupee kind of a level. The next question is, and the people stuck at a higher valuation. I think actually that's the bane of the stock market. There will always be situations where you would have invested at a price and the valuations would have gone down. But keeping in mind our basic thesis, which we have advised all investors since the very beginning, for startup companies and unicorns, a very easy thumb rule is that do not invest at a valuation which is much higher than their previous private round or a previous fundraise. And we even stick to that same logic here with Ixigo, that if GIC or if Sequoia or CFS have gotten in at a certain valuation, if you can enter at a valuation which is very close to that round at a 10%, 20% premium maybe, that should be it as an entry point. But beyond that, people should be a little careful in investing. Right. I think with regard to questions, that is it. Thank you everyone for joining in. We will be sharing the link to this webinar with everyone so that you have it on record for a later point of time as well. Thank you.